This is my review of Bleach Chapter 22. It's my second attempt to record this, unfortunately, so it's probably going to be brief and I'm probably going to be a little aggravated. I know I'm aggravated. So we open with like a corner thing of Kon asking Rukia why she's pulling him out of the backpack. And then we begin, he's complaining that he doesn't want to go inside Ichigo. Ichigo's mouth is dirty and stuff. And she's pushing him into Ichigo's mouth and stuff. It's a pretty funny gag. There's this like really goofy fucking panel that Kubo drew where like there's like a bunch of dramatic figures in it. Rukia looks like different and dramatic. There's like a dude with a scar. Everyone kind of looked like a samurai. There's some other people, and then there's like Kon, but he has a really buff body for some reason. Very goofy. Don't know why Kubo felt the need to draw it, but it's pretty funny. It made me laugh. And Rukia finally gets Kon down on Ichigo's mouth, and he continues to be dramatic, and then Rukia uses her soul glove to knock Kon out of the stuffed animal and into Ichigo's body. He then freaks out and starts like wiping his mouth and complaining that Ichigo's mouth is dirty and stuff, and complaining, but Rukia tells him they need to move Ichigo's sisters, and she remembers Ichigo telling her to stay out of his way, and she kind of says that she'll take care of Ichigo's sisters. We have a nice cover where Ichigo is wearing like some gloves and what looks like a racing jacket. And I think it's worth looking at all of Bleach's chapter covers just to see like all the different outfits and shit that Kubo will give his characters, because he's a really creative character designer, as I've said before. We then see a grave for a couple panels, and we keep zooming in on it, and then all of a sudden it gets destroyed. And we see the Grand Fisher swiping at Ichigo. Ichigo cuts one of his strands of hair, and then Grand Fisher zips right behind him. Calling him slow, Ichigo turns, and Grand Fisher like strikes his head and hits him like that. And knocks him to the ground, then he rushes Ichigo immediately, but Ichigo's quick to get up on his feet and kind of keep moving with Grand Fisher. Grand Fisher launches 3 more like hair tendril strikes, and he tells Ichigo that he won't beat him by continuing to run away or by flailing his sword wildly. Essentially, he's mocking Ichigo's lack of ability to fight, which I've talked about. I've said before that he doesn't know how to use his sword, and that is an important thing to bring up. He doesn't know how to fight. He knows how to use martial arts, but that's not the same thing as using a sword. So it's like the difference between I think I said this before as well, a person who knows martial arts versus someone who's just fought people on the streets. It's a different thing. Just because Ichigo's used to swinging his sword now doesn't mean he actually knows how to do it properly. And Grand Fisher then calls Ichigo arrogant for trying to protect anybody when he lacks the ability to do so. Essentially saying if you can't do something that you're claiming to do, then you're arrogant. Ichigo then starts to lament and think about how overmatched he is by Grand Fisher. And he thinks he's definitely going to lose, but then he kind of stops himself and gets his resolve back and says that he has to defeat Grand Fisher. Thinking about what he's done and stuff, and that he doesn't have the option to lose, and then Viz really fucks everything up with 2 really shit lines. The first one he says is something like, "By the gods, I'm not going to let him defeat me," or something, and then the second one is like, he says, "I swear I'm going to kill this guy dead," and these are like just 2 really shitty, awful lines. The localization is horrible. Whoever wrote these lines should have been fired after they wrote them, and if they haven't been fired yet, they need to be both fired and fined, because these lines are just terrible. So Grand Fisher rushes Ichigo while Ichigo is rushing him. Essentially, Ichigo starts coming toward him, and Grand Fisher like zips up to him, stopping Ichigo from being able to attack him. And he raises his arm and starts attacking Ichigo, and forcing Ichigo to block it. And for a sword to be effective, you need to slash your opponent, but if you're blocking an attack, you can't really do that. So he's just stuck, Grand Fisher essentially holding his sword now. he's nullified any hope that Ichigo could attack him. And he tells Ichigo that he has no discipline. And then we see his fingers and the claws shoot off his fingers. And we see that Ichigo was impaled by them because they can actually extend. Karin then wakes up and sees Ichigo, and we know it's Kon Ichigo. He tells her that her and Yuzu fell asleep on the mountain and they carried them there. Karin thinks about the fact that Ichigo's the one who saved them, and she's not sure if it was a dream or not. She doesn't really know what's going on. Kon goes out and asks Ruki if that was good enough, if he acted like Ichigo well enough, and she tells him that he did fine. He's not really comfortable trying to be like Ichigo and stuff, but she's saying that they needed to do that. Then we get a really cool panel of Karin and Yuzu in like the light of this window. I think it's really cool because they're like silhouettes almost, and like the light is coming through the window, leaving like a checkered pattern due to the slats, or whatever you want to call it. It just casted a really cool shadow, and it was a really cool looking panel, I think. And then we come back to see that Grandfisher's claws didn't really go all that deep. They only went like an inch into Ichigo. And then Ichigo just falls to his knees anyways. And like an inch in isn't even really enough to get your organs, so it really shouldn't have been all that devastating for Ichigo. This reminds me of like in older movies, you'd see like someone would be stabbed in the back by like a very short knife. They'd be like stabbed around like your fifth vertebrae down or something, like next to your scapula. And it's like you're stabbing someone in the trapezius. It's the, like the densest part of muscle on your whole body. In the back, not anywhere near an organ on the right side of the back where your heart is not. That's not a place where you would stab someone and they would die. Certainly you wouldn't stab them through the back. I know that's an expression, but like you'd want to go for like their lateral muscles over their trapezius. So I always thought like it's so goofy that someone would be stabbed in the back and they just die. And this just reminded me of that, where it's like, yes, he was impaled, but it's not lethal. And then Grandfisher starts like telling Ichigo that he's being reckless. His recklessness is going to get him defeated. Grandfisher continues berating Ichigo for being young and inexperienced and emotional and rash. He's quick to anger. He sucks at fighting. He just keeps going on and on and on, telling Ichigo that he fucking sucks. And it's like, I get it, dude. Fuck off. Kubo, I understand Ichigo's not good at fighting yet. It's the beginning of the series. Just move on. I don't need to be reminded of this all the time. It's bad enough that fucking Viz is localizing the shit, having Grandfisher say Sunny every fucking page. I don't need him also reminding me that Ichigo can't fight every page. And then Ichigo swears to kill him. Grandfisher brings his lore down and he holds his hand out like that. Before he does that, we see it's like the girl that Ichigo saw, and then he puts his hand around it and we opens his hand. It's Ichigo's mom now. And that's where it leaves off. It was good. It's like I said before, it's a very interesting fight. Grandfisher having like hair powers is different. It makes the fight more complicated than it otherwise would be. And I think Kubo does like the best with it that we could hope to see. Viz's localization is awful, and I don't need to be reminded every fucking page that Ichigo isn't good at fighting. And Kubo's doing a very good job at remembering that Ichigo doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to swing a sword. He knows how to swing a sword, but he doesn't know how to do it properly, you know? So I think Kubo's done a very good job with that thus far in the series. there's just two really, really good panels in this. The like dramatic samurai panel and like the window panel. Those are like two manga panels that are worth seeing, I think, from this chapter. And I don't think the anime would be able to match it.